Hey everyone, and welcome to The Unseen Narrative. I'm Tharaka. I've been working as a photojournalist for the last 10 years, and I'm so glad to have you with me today. Whether you're chilling in the morning, buzzing in the afternoon, or winding down at night. Okay, so today I'm not gonna look at a photograph. I'm gonna take you inside a moment, a really big moment I captured on June 9th, 2022. Right outside the police headquarters in Colombo, Sri Lanka. Now, if you remember back then, Sri Lanka was deep in the massive economic crisis. We had queues for fuel, we had no gas, there were power cuts, and the prices through the roof. So this wasn't just a protest, it was one of those protests that had a lot of intensity, born out of this raw desperation. It's a story packed with courage, a lot of chaos, and that super tricky ethical tightrope every photojournalist has to walk. And more than that, it's about how photography can just nail complex truths in one single unforgettable frame, especially when a nation is hurting. So okay, on that day, my main gig as a photojournalist was pretty clear. Just document what was happening in front of your eyes, as real as it gets. And what about the vibe? It was super tense. The protesters were not just angry, they were exhausted by the crisis. The risk of tear gas flying around was real, so wearing all this protective gear wasn't just a good idea. Actually, it was absolutely essential if I wanted to stay in the thick of it and capture the reality of what people were going through. So right in the middle of this escalating protest, the protest fueled by this daily struggles of economic crisis, at this exact second, a tear gas canister went off. I saw one Bhikkhuni fall to the ground. And it wasn't just some random incident. It was this incredibly powerful symbol, like a mini version of the whole big struggle against the crisis. She was really struggling to breathe after inhaling that tear gas. And the way her body just gave way, surrounded by those scattered barricades. Honestly, every single thing that frame just came together to create this exceptionally powerful visual story of a nation's pain. I'd like to say Sri Lanka's pain, right? As a nation. Now, we should get a little geeky about photography. Because this is where it really gets interesting, right? This is where a photograph becomes more than just a random picture. So we often talk about the decisive moment. That's a big deal in photography. A concept made famous by Henri Cartier-Bresson. It's actually not just about hitting the shutter at the right time. It's about seeing that precise instant when everything in the frame, the visual stuff, the emotions, just clicks perfectly. And what about this photograph? In my opinion, it's a prime example of hitting that decisive moment, capturing the right impact of the crisis on the ground. So when you check out the composition, you'll notice her body is almost dead center. And yeah, it might not follow the rule of thirds strictly, but that central placement, it really ramps up the subject's impact. It pulls your eye straight into her vulnerability, making her a focal point for the wider suffering. And plus, what about those overturned, rusted barricades? They aren't just random junk. They act like powerful leading lines, guiding your eye, creating this visual path right to the heart of the scene's chaos. Chaos directly linked to the country's breakdown. And think about how lighting and shadows play off each other. The harsh midday sun carves out these sharp shadows on the ground and those metal barricades, which just intensifies how serious the whole scene is. It's not just about the light. It's about using light to sculpt emotion. And that tear gas smoke, well, what about it? You'll have your own opinion, but in my opinion, it adds this very dramatic and I'd say very unique atmospheric perspective, not only showing you the intense environment, but also adding layers of depth and mystery to the shot. And it kind of symbolized the future of the crisis. Yeah, and with regard to the dynamic range in this photograph, it was actually handled pretty well, I guess, keeping all those important details visible in both bright and dark areas, so you get the full intensity of the scene. And with regard to the color palette, right, the color palette is also super important here, because a deep red rope just pops against the muted gray of the ground, and the stark yellow black rust of the barricades. What about that contrast? It amplifies this emotional punch, making her a vivid representation of the human cost. And the depth of field, what about it? Yeah, she's actually razor sharp in focus, while the background is softly blurred. Maybe it's because of the tear gas and whatever impact it had on my lens, but it's not necessarily a super shallow depth of field, because that was the limitation of my lens, I guess. But it also totally nails the subject isolation, making sure eyes stay glued to her and to her struggle and to her story, a story that was, for so many, the story of the economic crisis itself. So the bottom line, this isn't just a photograph, it's a deep visual document that captures the raw emotion, the pain and the sheer grit of the moment, all within the context of a nation struggling with an unprecedented crisis at that time. And the most important thing about a truly great photograph, in my opinion, is its core reason for being is its undeniable power to tell a story, to make what's been unseen finally visible, and especially the hidden narratives of a crisis. But beyond all this technical stuff and the deep philosophy, there's this really crucial and sometimes tough aspect to photojournalism, which has always been the case, I guess, throughout the history, is the ethical considerations. So when I'm in a situation like this, capturing raw, vulnerable moments, especially when they stem from this widespread suffering like an economic crisis, my ethical compass has to be absolutely rock solid. My main goal, to be really honest, was to document the truth, for sure, but it was just as important to respect the dignity of the person I was photographing. I'm not there to exploit someone's pain. I'm there to witness and to inform, and to do it with serious respect. In this specific case, making sure the Bhikkhuni was safely escorted out later wasn't just a human thing to do. It was a huge part of my ethical duty as a photojournalist. I carry a big responsibility on my shoulders to tell a story accurately, respectfully, and super importantly, without causing more harm. I'd like to say I actually stick to that as minimizing harm. So it's a very delicate, ongoing balancing act between the public needs to know about the crisis and the individual's right to dignity and privacy. And when I talk about photographs that go beyond just pictures that tell a story, that make history, this image, I guess, in its own powerful way, totally connects with the impact of some of the great photographs. But anyways, my photo of this Bhikkhuni shares a very telling story. It has a core idea. It's one single frame that wraps up the intensity, the struggle, and the deep human element of a much bigger event, an event deeply rooted in the economic turmoil of Colombo. It's proof of photography's lasting power to cross time, to get people talking, and to become a real part of our shared memory and conscious, especially when documenting a nation's fight for survival. And I have a confession to make. So luckily, after a little while, I think after a split second, she was actually safely removed from the spot. That brought a little bit of relief to us, because hadn't there been anyone, I guess I'm pretty sure that I would have been the first person to volunteer to take her out of that situation to safety. But anyways, so that actually brought a little bit of relief to what was otherwise a pretty tragic moment, giving me a quiet beat to reflect amidst all the chaos of the crisis. And as a photojournalist, capturing moments like this through the lens really makes me think about the times we're living in, and how much more as a society still need to work on. This photo isn't just a quick record of a struggle. It is, at its heart, a symbol of human resilience, that unshakable spirit of protest against hardship, and of course the ongoing universal fight for justice in the face of these evolving economic collapses all throughout the world. All right then, that's actually going to wrap up today's episode of The Unseen Narrative. I'll catch you next time with another story, another unseen truth. Until then, take care everyone.